Hey guys, I'm just reading this incredible book, Big Magic, in my new studio. No, I'm not actually reading this book because I just finished reading it yesterday. I would say it is worthy of a second, maybe even a third read, but for now, I'm just going to stick to sharing with you my summary / review of this really awesome and inspiring book by Elizabeth Gilbert. The messages are so good, it doesn't really matter whether you read the book, you want to read the book, or whatever is going on about the book for you. So this is just going to be me sharing my favorite parts of the book and the golden nuggets that really stood out to me. This is what's going to help me actually absorb the book too. So this is a win-win for us both. Did you know that if you learn something and you don't repeat it shortly after, if you don't tell it to someone else verbally, or you don't try to reorganize it in your own thoughts to tell someone else and remember the information, it's going to leave your brain within just a few days. If you read books, make sure you share that book with someone else. Do something so that you actually have that knowledge cemented in your brain as actual knowledge, because a lot of times I think we read books and we go, oh, that was great, but it was just a check of a box, you know. It's just like, oh, I'm reading a book and I want to finish it, and therefore, oh, I read that book, now that thing is done, I'll move on to the next thing. But what did you get from the book? How are you going to apply it to your life? What does it mean to you? What did you actually grasp? And a lot of times that's just one or two main concepts, and that's okay. All right, so let's begin by, I think, the most important part of the book. I had this moment of resonance where I was like, yes, that's exactly it. If you're not a painter or a writer or whatever you think a creative is, this applies to you because we're all creative beings. As Brene Brown said, unexpressed creativity is not benign. So if you don't express your energy that's within you, it's within all of us, then it can make you sick, it can make you depressed, it can make you really frustrated and angry and unfulfilled. This quote I'm about to read to you really hit home for me. If I am not actively creating something, then I am probably actively destroying something. Myself, a relationship, or my own peace of mind. Our brains need tasks. Like, our brain really loves having things to do and to focus on. And the more playful or exciting or creative you can make that task, the better. Think about a time that you were doing something where you didn't think about your phone, or you didn't think about eating food, or you didn't think about watching TV. You were just so immersed in the activity of what you were doing, building, creating, whatever it was. Even if it was like as simple as coloring a page of a coloring book. If I don't have something to focus on, I know myself, I will go to the kitchen, trying to distract myself, trying to fill myself up, trying to do something. The brain's just like, do something. And if there's nothing fun and exciting, or even a tiny little project like coloring a coloring book to focus on, then our brain will fill that space. And sometimes filling that space comes with negativity. So find something to do creatively, even if that is getting an adult coloring book, or start writing out your thoughts. What I really encourage a lot of people to do is record their thoughts. So you don't have to put it out as a podcast or a video, but just to sit and press record and speak and get it out of your body is like a verbal journal. And I think it's even easier than writing because it doesn't take much effort to talk. We can all talk pretty easily with pretty little effort. And it just feels good. That's why talk therapy is so helpful for so many people, I think, is because we just want to get our feelings and our thoughts out with no judgment. So yeah, find something to focus your creative energy on. Otherwise, you might actively destroy yourself. What I got from Elizabeth's message is that living a creative life is choosing courage over comfort. It's choosing curiosity, and it's being light with life. It's being playful. So this can help us in all aspects of our life, because I know if you're anything like me, you tend to take yourself and life maybe a little too seriously sometimes. And you get all tight in your belly and your shoulders, and maybe right now you're feeling that way. So take a deep breath. Fill your lungs with oxygen. Expand through the belly, through the rib cage, through the diaphragm. and exhale. Let it go. Nothing serious going on here. Overall, living a creative life is being playful. It's being curious. It's knowing that you don't have to have a passion. And this is really important. She doesn't like to preach, follow your passion, because a lot of people don't have a passion. A lot of people don't have a clue what they're passionate about. And passion is really this thing that is supposed to be overwhelmingly obvious, and it just kind of pulls you in a certain direction, and you can't help but follow your passion if you have one. But for 90% of people, maybe even more, we don't have a clear passion. And then we think that we're just left out of the party, or that we just aren't creative. And therefore, then we settle for something much less. What Elizabeth encourages is being creative in realizing that you can just follow any tiny little curiosity. It's not a slap across the face of like, wham, this is what I'm supposed to do with my life. It's a tiny little whisper of, that's pretty cool. Maybe you feel that way about golf or fish or knitting. Hopefully you get the point here. You don't need to be passionate about something. And living a creative life is staying open to all possibilities. It's lightheartedly curious about tiny little interests that you have, and then just taking one little baby step toward that thing. Not needing to be overwhelmed with excitement or passion about a specific topic in order to step toward it. Just knowing that a little tiny whisper of, that's kind of cool, or that's interesting. If you're willing to live a creative life, then that tiny little whisper of curiosity is enough. A big part of creativity and living a creative life is not letting go of or getting rid of fear. And the way that Elizabeth talks about it in the book, she's realized creativity and her fear are like conjoined twins, and that they don't go anywhere without each other. She's also found the more she fights against it, it fights back even harder. Ram Dass talks about embracing your dark fears or your dark thoughts or your dark feelings and loving them, welcoming them, and hugging them. And the moment you do that, it's not that they disappear, but they might lose a little bit of power. They might even slowly start to dissolve. The moment you realize it's not about getting rid of fear, but it's more like, let's do this together. And the analogy that Liz Gilbert gives is like, you're going on this journey, this creative life journey, and fear's coming, but don't you dare let fear drive. So it's really about that, having that openness, that acceptance that fear is going to be right there, trying to tap you on the shoulder every couple of minutes and tell you that you shouldn't go that way, or you turned the wrong direction, or did you read the map, or whatever it wants to say to you. And it's your job to just ignore it, basically. Just ignore it. Say, you can stay in the car, but shut the F up. Moving on to the next really cool point. This is something that you might hear pretty often. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And in Big Magic, Liz Gilbert gives a different perspective, a slight change of words. And that is, what would you do that would, or not what would you do, sorry. I should probably just read the quote. I have it right in front of me. What do you love doing so much that the words success and failure become irrelevant? That's a cool idea, right? What this leads us to, if you're open to it, is what do you do just simply for the fun of it? What do you love the experience of doing? Running outside in the rain, playing with your kids in the backyard, playing card games, making scrapbooks, or jewelry. I struggle with this. My brain almost always goes, but how are you going to make money doing this? Or what's the purpose of this? What's the ROI? And the ROI, the return on investment, needs to only be to find something that you love to do so much that it doesn't matter what you're going to get from it, other than the experience itself. It's not always the only option to quit your job and go all in on being a starving artist like I was, and like a lot of people do. You can just dabble in things. That brings me to my next point. And or Liz's next point. If you're working on something, and I know that you've felt this before, even if it was just in high school or college, writing a paper that you just felt so stuck on. You hit a block in some project, in some creative project, and you don't know where to go next. You can/should move on to something else, at least temporarily. Leaving it alone, dabbling and playing somewhere else, and then oftentimes you will have a new sense of creative energy, or at least clarity, because you left it alone. It's like, stop messing with it. If you're struggling with any project in your life, any even decision in your life, let it be. Surrender it. Let it go. And come back after you've gone and done something playful and light so that you can have a new perspective. Okay. So I wanted to write a book for, I don't know, 5-6 years, maybe longer, maybe 10 years. I started writing in my journal when I was 17, and I told myself, I'm gonna publish this one day. So that was kind of like the beginning of me wanting to write a book. But as I was reading Big Magic, randomly, my boyfriend, he didn't even know what this book was about. He didn't really even pay attention, I don't think, that I was reading it. But he said to me, this fall and winter, you should write your book. You should really just actually write it. And I was like, okay, good idea. And so I decided that I was gonna do that and that it was time. And so one day we were in Starbucks and I was reading Big Magic, and I came to this chapter about having an affair with your creative hobby or with your creativity. Let's even say a young love. I think it's a similar analogy. So what she's saying is, when you're young and in love, like that puppy love, if you have 5 minutes in the hallway at school or in the car before you have to go in back to your house to see your parents, it's like you'll just make out with each other whenever and wherever you can, basically. And that's how she says that she treats her writing. So as I'm sitting there in Starbucks, I'm reading this chapter and I'm thinking, okay, I need to not romanticize my writing process. I need to not think that I need to have a perfectly quiet room with candles lit and incense going and light music in the background and my crystals surrounding me, and I need to not put writing on a pedestal, basically. I did this with my art. I thought it had to be perfect. Like, I thought the ambiance of the room had to be perfect in order for me to paint, and that held me back. So as I'm reading this and I'm realizing in my mind, like, oh yeah, you can just write in your phone, like use your notes, and you can just doodle on paper. If you really want to be an artist, you can just do it anytime, anywhere, no excuses. So I put my book away and I zipped it up in my backpack, and I'm just sitting there. And I didn't know how long we were staying. So I'm kind of getting antsy, just doing nothing, scrolling on my phone. My boyfriend Dalton is working on his own thing. And he's like, what's up? What are you doing? And I was like, nothing. Like, what are you doing? Like, is it time to go? I'm getting kind of hungry. And he's like, well, you don't have anything to work on? And I was like, no, not really. Like, nothing I can like actually like buckle down and sit and work on, you know? Like, I can't get into anything right now. We don't have enough time. It's not perfect enough. And he was like, well, what about your book? Like, could you start writing your book? And I was like, no, I can't just start writing my book in 15 minutes or 20 minutes. I don't know how long we're going to be here, and I don't have my laptop, and I started making all these excuses. As I had just read this part in the book, you guys. And I realized it, like, as I was saying it, and then I went outside, and we ended up leaving. But I admitted to him and to myself, like, what I had just done. And there was no shame, no guilt. It was just like, isn't that interesting? Look at Kylie's silly little mind that wants to make everything perfect and make up excuses so she doesn't ever have to start writing her book because she needs the most perfect circumstances. And she didn't have them in that moment, so she said no to starting to write her book. And I thought that was really fascinating. And since then I've learned, and I started writing my book. And I'm really glad I started to write my book because it feels good to just get started. We have to let go of that romanticism and let go of the idea of perfection, and stop letting that idea of perfection hold you back from your creative endeavors, whatever they may be. You don't have to have a degree. You don't need anybody's permission. If you do, here's mine. Get started now. You're worthy, you're capable, and you're gonna get better as you go. That's the most magical part of big magic and of everything about creativity, is that the more you show up for it, the more it's going to show up for you. And the braver you are and the more courageous you are, the more you're going to have confidence in yourself. And the more you're going to have respect for yourself, which is really what we're all after. Because without self-respect, you can't have self-love. And self-love is the antidote to all the problems we create in our world and in our mind of not being good enough, not being capable, not being worthy of love. And then we externalize that into blame and defensiveness and distance from other people. So with that being said, I am curious to know, what are you going to do with the big magic that lies within you? Don't forget, it's a relationship. You have to show up for it. You have to devote yourself to it. You have to be loyal to it. It's like this energy, this essence that's floating around in the ether, and it's waiting for you. It's ready for you. It wants to come through you. Inspiration wants to come through you. Ideas want to come through you. They're just waiting for you to show up. They're waiting for you to open up and say, here I am. I'm ready to create. Just know it's available to you. Without accessing that part of yourself, you are most likely actively destroying some part or all of yourself. Start paying attention to tiny little things that catch your attention and follow those things in the tiniest way. That's the end of my first book review ever. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you stay updated with new videos. And just know that you are right where you're supposed to be. Right here, right now. See you guys next time.